So you get your money's worth on the intro music now. Now that this is not a mini. Hey, this is 372 pages we'll never get back. Michael J. Nelson here. And Conor, you're there, I assume?
Conor Listoka is here, too. Yeah, this is like a fun thing where if you're just hearing us for the first time in a couple weeks after we finished up Moon People, we probably sound, normal, and this sounds like a normal episode. And everyone else who's been listening to these daily quarantine episodes on Patreon is like, my God, no, they've lost their minds. They're talking about Alf and Beethoven and doing Andy Rooney offs and
And understand, Alf and Beethoven wasn't a range. That was a very narrow range. It's like two geniuses. That's what we're talking about. Yeah,
that was our genius off episode. But yeah, this is like when you comb your hair and put on a Big Johnson tank top for the Zoom meetings that your work is doing. That's what the normal episodes are like, and then the quarantine minis are behind the curtain.
Right, and sometimes even for the Zoom meetings where you comb your hair and put on a shirt and pants too.
Yes,
if you're really feeling she. So that's what we're doing. Pants are on, and we're ready to go.
Oh, that I didn't think we had agreed to that. 1 second.
Oh, all right. We'll wait.
Yeah, but so we're back with this is book 12, and it is Digital Fortress by Dan Brown. This is the first time I think we're talking about it on here, but we did a poll on Patreon to see what people wanted to do, and this handily won out. I think it won out by at least 10% over the next book, which was Artemis by Andy Weir. So it's the first Dan Brown book I've read since I think one called The Lost Symbol, which I read back in probably 2008. What's your Dan Brown background?
None at all, except reading, coming across those articles like 15 of Dan Brown's worst sentences, and laughing at those. But I've never encountered. I think I saw the movie, the one with Tom Hanks and the bad hair.
Yeah,
and that's about all. I saw it because I had time to kill. I was without my family, and it was like super long, and I saw it, and I think I did the nap during the day kind of thing, and
yes.
Went out of it refreshed. I don't really remember anything about it.
I also remember that Angels and Demons, which was the sequel to that, or maybe the prequel, I don't remember, but it came out, it was the second one, and around San Diego they did this promo campaign. Maybe it tied into Comic-Con, but they went out with stencils and like chalk graffitied sidewalks all over town, like all over my neighborhood, and it was, it wasn't like sidewalk chalk, it was some sort of chalk that evidently was very hard to get off of the sidewalks because they stuck around for a while. So you'd just be walking around, weeks after this movie had came and went and nobody cared, and just be like, I guess that still says Angels and Demons. That's really obnoxious.
That could backfire easily.
Yeah. But yeah, I had read both of those books, and I remembered, them being page turners, but also being like, I'm pretty sure these are bad. And so this was the book that came out before all of them, and reading it has reminded me exactly what I remember thinking was bad about them. All the things are there. And I think people have very quickly seized on them as well, as evidenced by the sheer amount of convincing fanfic that came pouring in.
Yeah, my first takeaway is we knocked on Dale M. Courtney for his seeming lack of coherence in just dividing up his chapters, because it was all one roll of paper. This chapter divides are just pretty absurd here.
Yeah,
attempting to make it look like this is a short scene in a movie or something, but it's taken that to absurd lengths.
Yeah, we knocked Dale M. and we knocked Shadow Moon for not having the just star type of things. But yeah, Dan Brown makes those star paragraphs into his own chapters, and that happen right off the bat. So we read the first 9, which sounds imposing, but it was really it's a quick read. That's one thing. It's a page turner more than anything, but that's because there's not a lot of substance here.
No, indeed. But we should announce that we have all the departments. Correct?
Oh yeah. We got a ton of emails, and we got a ton of dumb sentences, and we got maybe the most fanfic that's ever been recorded. I think we got it. I mean, we got a lot that we couldn't use just because it's we can't just do an entire real or fanfic episode, but maybe we'll use some in a future episode. Maybe we'll just post those on Discord or something. But well done, everybody! You really picked up on what he was putting down.
So quickly seized on his style.
Yeah. So you might have to figure out other things to seize on, because a lot of people went to similar wells, but we don't want to get ahead of that. We should just we should delve into the book. And I think the first thing I noticed was the acknowledgement section said that a quiet thank you to two faceless ex-NSA cryptographers who made invaluable contributions via anonymous remailers. Without them, this book would not have been written. So we know who to blame. It is these two faceless ex-NSA cryptographers that put this in our hands.
Oh, there it is. Yes, I didn't. I passed right over that.
Yeah, and then there's some garbage about his parents or something. So
right, but then we get to the prologue.
Mm-hmm. Prologue was a brief section that didn't make much sense at the time, but during this first 9 chapters, we learned who he was talking about. Tankado.
Yes, this prologue put me in mind of. You look at it and you go, it's a little puzzling. Obviously, it's just a teaser. But I did thank my lucky stars it was not a Shadow Moon prologue, which wasn't that?
Oh, that was
like 15 pages or more.
That was probably
pages?
More words than we read in this section alone. I'm sure that was 13,000 words.
Yes. So this was brief.
Yes.
It's just the story of a man named Ensai?
And sure. Ensai Tankado.
Tankado.
Who dies in Sevilla, Spain.
Yes.
But yeah, that's sort of like your, like you said, that's him. If you're going to make the movie, this is what you do before like the title hits type of thing. It's the cold open.
Yes. So that is over quickly. I don't really have any notes about that.
No. Moves quickly on to chapter 1, and chapter 1 introduces our first 2 characters, our main characters, and it introduces a theme that, boy, do I hope it's going to be constant throughout the book, which may be that Dan Brown puts previous Horny 372 authors like Jim Tice, and even, I'm going to make a bold claim, even the woman who wrote The Mister puts them to shame.
Wow, puts The Mister to shame?
Well, hear me out.
Okay.
That book was only written to, be horny and titillate. And, I think it's different when she's writing these female authors writing about these sex scenes. I think it's a little more, I don't know, empowering type of thing versus this, which is pretty much a cartoon wolf with his tongue lolling out over the table and banging himself on the head with a mallet.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this better or worse than, Grandpa No kind of horniness?
I have a note about that. I assume Dan Brown is at Grandpa age, so he probably has those
now. Probably not when this was written.
Yeah, but that's my claim, and it plays out over and over again, and it's sort of he hits us with us right off the bat. We have the main character moaning sensually. When her
that was going to be my immediate sonic challenge for you.
Oh God!
It's 3 M's. She moaned sensuously. So. Oh God!
Yeah, well,
I instantly regret.
It's I haven't even finished a cup of coffee. But yeah, so that's David Becker has canceled a trip with Susan Fletcher, but she says, "I was just dreaming of you. Come over and play." He says it's still dark out, and that's when she moans sensually. Well, then definitely come over and play. So that's Mr. level, I feel like.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I guess it is because it's a guy doing it.
Right.
A little weird.
Yeah, so what does he do? He has the sensuous woman immediately start taking a bath before we've even really gotten a chance to know her.
Yep. She's soaking in a... this is a nice feature. It'll tell you how baths work. Gradually, the water around her went from hot to lukewarm, and finally, back to hot? No, to cold. So that was good to know.
Right.
But that's how water cools. Thank you for that detail.
Yeah, it was not on an alien planet where the laws of thermodynamics have changed.
Yes.
And that sentence leads right into this one. She was about to get out when her cordless phone buzzed to life. So that's a good reminder that this does take place in 1998. So I thought we could maybe just run down like what technology was like in 1988 to set the stage. Like where were you?
Did you say 88 or 90?
98. I'm sorry, 1998.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, what were you doing in terms of the internet in 1998?
1998. Let's see. I might have been. Well, I was still on Mystery Science.
Okay.
And we had a writing room with the computer that was not hooked up to the internet.
Wow.
So everything that we were saying was subject to our own memory. We did not. We had no way to instantly check things.
But the internet was available. Like I was on AOL. My family was in '94.
Sure, but to have the connection, we would have had to we would have had to log on. And
sure, it wasn't unlimited, so you didn't have it.
Right, since it wasn't unlimited, it just seemed we could check it later or whatever. But it just seemed like odd that it wasn't just right there.
Right, it doesn't you don't want to have to be like was Charles Nelson Riley on Match Game 77 and then 30 seconds of modem noise, 3 minutes of navigating to Lycos or something, and then.
Yes, and I remember that. I guess having a really good cordless phone was, something that you. But I had college. I had phones, right? Cordless phones.
Yes.
So that's not really a point of pride, but
not a flex,
you could shop for a good one, or you could have the cheap ones. So.
But yeah, so it's fun to remember that this was that era where not everyone was online, and so it certainly seemed novel. You probably had a hard drive that was under a gig, and maybe had a double speed CD-ROM drive if you had one.
Oh, I remember the moment a producer there at MST got a computer with a gig, and he had everybody. He showed everyone.
What, he just clicked on space available? Wow. You went home and threw your zip drive in the garbage.
Right. So, yeah, we'll get a lot of that. So that'll be fun. But Susan, she gets out of she sloshes water out. So I'm picturing that as she grappled for the receiver. And then she drips on her own clothes. And so,
yes.
Yeah, it's Horny adjacent through the whole thing.
Yeah, she's dripping on her clothes as she packs the clothes she puts away the clothes she was going to pack, the hiking shorts, the sweater for the cool mountain evenings, and the new lingerie she'd bought for the nights.
Mm-hmm.
But she's doing all that because the call has told her there's an emergency in crypto, and crypto is where she works. So I think that's where that ends.
I do like sentences like this, though, and our other authors to various levels have either tried and most have failed horribly to put a button on the end of their chapters. I think that's a feature of our bad authors.
Uh-huh.
This one does it, but does it poorly, and I think it's sort of comical. As she went downstairs, Susan wondered how the day could get much worse. She was about to find out.
Yes, we do get several of those.
Is she really going down the stairs wondering how it could get much worse?
Right. Yeah, I guess it's how a soap opera ends traditionally. There's a knock at the door and it's opened and it's the X lever, like it's that over and over again.
Right. And then chapter 2, another one of his, moving the narrative along chapters.
Yeah, 98 words. In chapter
counted,
2.
Yeah.
Oh, you did a word count on the dock.
And nothing, he's just on his plane.
Yeah.
He's been ordered to go.
It's David Becker, who we don't know much about yet, but yeah, he's flying somewhere because he's doing a favor because there are some men you just don't say no to.
Yes.
So it's sort of setting the stage that this goes all the way up to the top. I feel like we're gonna be dipping into that voice register often during this.
That's right. These are serious men saying serious things to really attractive women.
One really attractive woman, as we go on to learn in chapter 3. I think that's where we start to get sort of the background about Susan Fletcher and her work in the NSA crypto office.
Oh, chapter 3 is kind of the meat. This is the tent pole, I believe, for this section. So
tent pole, you say?
Yeah. Intentional.
Yeah, where does yours start?
Well, I'm just this John fella is a real creep.
Okay, yeah.
John, I assume he's he's the guard for the main checkpoint. To the NSA crypto facility, authorized personnel only.
Yes.
She comes through and waves at, just one of the guys. Hey, how's it going, Miss Fletcher? Hi, John.
Right.
And then as she walks away, John begins the horny wolf thing.
Oh, man. It is lengthy.
It is amazing. You wanna do it?
Sure, yeah. The guard admired Susan as she began her walk down the cement causeway. He noticed that her strong hazel eyes seemed distant today, but her cheeks had a flushed freshness, and her shoulder-length auburn hair looked newly blown dry. Trailing her was the faint scent of Johnson's baby powder. His eyes, so he keeps going, his eyes fell the length of her slender torso to her white blouse, with the bra barely visible beneath, to her knee-length khaki skirt, and finally to her legs. Susan Fletcher's legs. Hard to imagine they support a 170 IQ, he mused to himself. Oh man, I feel like it is telling on Dan Brown just a little too much there.
Well, it goes on. So after all of that, it says he stared after her a long time.
Yeah, we got that picture.
It's already been a long time. Well, how long is the causeway or whatever she's walking down?
Yeah, you're going to imagine her being like, "What is that?" And it is, he starts like cranking his tongue back into his mouth as it had, been just trailing her down the causeway.
Now, what does this tell us about John? Because if you're just letting your instincts go and you're watching a very attractive woman, are you noticing things like her cheeks had a flushed freshness?
Right.
Are you in your own mind going, look at that shoulder-length auburn hair? That looks like it's been newly blown dry.
Right, yeah.
What's that smell? Something smells. That's Johnson's baby powder.
Yeah, that is not something this guy would be able to...
It's just very odd details that John, the guard at NSA, is noticing.
Yeah, he's doing he's folding his newspaper slowly, standing up, leaning out of the security guard sort of toll booth vestibule.
I wonder, if his wife or significant other is chastising him of looking at women, and then his defense is, yes, but I'm being very upscale about it. I'm noticing her auburn hair,
right? The
faint smell of baby powder. I'm not just,
I'm only doing it to the women with genius level IQs, honey. But yeah,
and as she's walking away, I'm noticing her flushed cheeks. I mean, come on, I'm really good at this.
Right, I'm painting a mental picture. I'm Rembrandt of horniness. But he and then a lot of people pointed this out as just the finally to her legs, Susan Fletcher's legs is like just a gross, needless artistic flourish. I guess we know who it is. He knows who it is. Like, she's not a celebrity or anything. It's not like he's doing like, I can't believe I'm getting an autograph from, Britney Spears or something. It's just like, it struck everyone as extremely strange.
Sure. Finally to her legs. Mark Cuban's legs. We know there is. Yes, right, yes. That struck me as especially creepy because it's trying to imply this sort of, like you say, celebrity thing, which means that John has... the number of times he's been horny.
Right, yes.
That she's been in the spank bank for John for a long time.
Yes,
makes it so much creepier.
There's a scene in Ocean's 11 where I think Matt Damon, someone comes up to him and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "This is the best part of my day." And he's watching Julia Roberts just descend a staircase in a ball gown or something. I was like, how long have you been doing this?
If you were the actress, if you were Julia Roberts, and that was the setup for that, I would say, guys, I'm going to take a pass on this. I'm embarrassed to be a part of this.
Or you just make it a point to like walk by Matt Damon and like fart or something, being like, "Yeah, right. Now try to wolf after me after this one." Mm-hmm. But Susan Davis does not do that because it's only Johnson's baby powder that he trails after her. But she then goes on to sort of be preoccupied with David, who had to leave her. What is David? David Becker?
David Becker, not the soccer player, David Beckham.
Right.
David Becker.
But this is going to shock you, potentially a similar level of model-esque attractiveness to David Beckham.
I think this tops the creepiness of the previous scene. This is so bizarre.
Yeah, it is sort of, he resists the urge to say, like, they're both movie star level attractiveness for when you cast it, but he may as well.
Well, I mean, give him credit. He doesn't do the Ernest Cline thing of just saying, here's who he is.
Right.
He makes a go of it. And I think it's worth reading this because of the detail that it ends on. This
Okay.
is a few short paragraphs.
Got it.
David Becker, the only man she'd ever loved, the youngest full professor at Georgetown University and a brilliant foreign language specialist. He was practically a celebrity in the world of academia. Born with eidetic memory and a love of languages, he'd mastered 6 Asian dialects as well as Spanish, French, and Italian. His university lectures on etymology and linguistics were standing room only, and he invariably stayed late to answer a barrage of questions. He spoke with authority and enthusiasm, apparently oblivious to the adoring gazes of his star-struck co-eds. Guess we were calling them co-eds in 1960.
Sure.
Becker was dark, a rugged, youthful 35 with sharp green eyes and a will to match. His strong jaw and taut features reminded Susan of carved marble. Over 6 feet tall, Becker moved across a squash court faster than any of his colleagues could comprehend. After soundly beating his opponent,
Oh boy.
he would cool off by dousing his head in a drinking fountain and soaking his tuft of thick black hair. Then, this is going to cap it all off, all of that you just heard. Then, still dripping, he'd treat his opponents to a fruit shake and a bagel. What?
It has escalated quickly here. It has gone off the rails. So, we will. Yeah, the food in the book is deeply weird, as we will come to see. But I think we should back up and take it from the top, kind of.
Sure.
So he's
break this down.
He's a celebrity in the world of academia who delivers standing room only lectures to, as you said, the adoring gazes of starstruck co-eds. So you earlier claimed that he didn't do the Ernest Cline and say that he looks exactly like, Brad Pitt or something, but he's essentially calling to mind the beginning of Indiana Jones, right? Where the girl paints "I love you" on her eyelids and sort of bats her eyes at him.
Sure.
And it's sort of, we've said this, I've said this a lot, but it has that sort of Royal Tenenbaums. He had born with a preternatural understanding of international finance. It's like he doesn't stop at 6 Asian dialects. He also just tosses on fluent in 3 languages. And then I said that if you had just sort of stopped before it got to the description, I would have bet all the money in the world that he was going to have the word rugged applied to him.
Yes.
But so, yeah.
The fact that the dousing his head in a drinking fountain gets the full attention during this, when you're just trying to paint a picture of someone, he's the kind of guy who douses his head in a drinking fountain.
So he's
okay.
He's homeless, and that's the only way that he's able to wash. What do the other people who have just watched a guy sweat all over a squash court, like as he's moving faster than anyone can comprehend? What are they? Are they just like, I'm just going to get a bottle of Avion? Actually, I will pass up the water fountain that you've just drenched with your sweat.
They can't even comprehend his movements, so it's like flash levels of speed where I don't even know what happened here today on the squash court.
Yes, he's in 2 places at once, and over 6 feet tall. There's lots of professional athletes who manage to be 6 foot tall and fast, so it's not like it's unheard of to be. But
I did wonder about the drinking fountain thing. In small towns, I don't know if these are around in your area, but there's a lot of those lion head drinking fountains. They seem to be in the 70s. I think they made a bunch of them. Have you ever seen those?
Actually look like a lion's head?
Yeah, it's a fiberglass. It's for kids. It's a fiberglass lion head, and you stick your head in there and drink them from the fountain.
No, I'm not familiar.
But that's what I pictured. It's like maybe that's his gag. Like, look, I still got my head in the mouth. I don't know.
But and then just to say that even like the he's not even rinsing off his golden locks. It's his thick tuft of thick black hair, which is even more like, that sounds like the way you describe a clog you pull out of a drain or something.
Yeah, it's the we're doing a movie now with a eerie Russian assistant with a thick beard and a thick hair. It's like, okay, so it's Igor then. All right.
But then, yeah, still dripping, he would treat his opponent to a fruit shake and a bagel. So would
he produce it faster than they could comprehend? That's the other thing I want to know.
Would he give them options, what they wanted to eat? Like, breakfast on me. Oh, great. I'll just, sort of have something light since we just did a workout. Nope. Fruit shake and a bagel is your only option.
I'm actually allergic to strawberries.
Have here.
Nope. Fruit
2
shake
bagels.
and bagel.
Eat them both. Eat them faster than I can comprehend.
Yeah, David Becker. What a weird intro to this man.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think I misspoke when I read it. It's sharp green eyes and a wit to match.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It did make me wonder what what wit matches sharp green eyes. I assume it's just clumsy, and he's supposed to say that the eyes are sharp, and so his wit is sharp.
The wit is also sharp, yeah.
I get that, but sharp green eyes don't necessarily match wit.
We get another odd, I think it's more of a mixed metaphor coming up later that was the one that I shared with Lauren that is, I don't think a lot of this would have passed by a legitimate editor who wasn't focused just on cracking the bestseller list.
Right. Well, all right. That's David.
Well, one more thing about him. It says this, which I found hard to sort of wrap my head around. As with all young professors, David's university salary was modest. And I just have people are probably going to write in, but like a Georgetown University professor is really are they eking by on under the poverty line here?
Also, doesn't he have some pull on that area because he has standing room only lectures?
Yes, right.
He's an outright celebrity there, and
yeah.
you'd think that would give him a little leverage on the bargaining table.
Exactly. He's being recruited by the Ivy League, I guess. But yeah, Georgetown is a Tony part of town and a hard school to get into. So it's hard to imagine that he, from time to time, when he needed to renew his squash club membership or restring his old Dunlop with gut, he earned extra money doing translating work for government agencies in and around Washington. So he's literally having to pick up extra work so he can restring his tennis racket.
And so what's he doing throwing around this bagel and fruit shake money like it's going out of style?
Right. And it might just
won. Make the guy buy it for you, dumbass.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll have to. I tried to look up how much a professor makes, but there was no obvious answer there, and I quickly lost interest. But it was on one of these extra money jobs that he had met Susan. Right.
So that's David. I don't think I have anything else there. I do. I do, because this chapter. I thought this chapter ended. No,
this is a long chapter.
Yeah. I think he's doing his workout, his jog, and then he downed a quart of orange juice as he listened to the playback on his machine. He had a message when he got back. I mean, isn't that all that acidic liquid is like etching his marble face, isn't it?
Right, and the everyone at this point knows that like Tropicana orange juice is pretty much soda in terms of its sugar content.
Yeah. A quart,
32 ounces.
Wow. How many grams of carbs is that? That's got to be hundreds.
And that's a pretty quick down of a thing. If he's just getting a message from someone requesting a job, maybe in a minute, like literally powering it down.
Right. But it's the NSA calling.
Yes. And they sort of set it up. Yeah, they set it up as this being. It was before the NSA was widely known, I guess. They claimed that in 1998, only 3% of Americans knew about it, and it seems like it's widely known now. I guess there's been scandals or stuff like that has sort of made it more widely known.
Yeah, I think he's ahead of the curve on the issues of the NSA spying on Americans. I'll grant him that little bit of foresight.
We got an email from Christina that I'm going to read now. She said she had the same thoughts, but she said she tried to give it the benefit of the doubt, remembering this was written in the 90s, and couldn't quite recall when I first heard of the NSA until Chapter 4 with the phrase "No More Secrets." I immediately recalled the classic 1992 film Sneakers, which prominently featured the NSA. So I saw that film in the theater, and I guess that was probably the way that most Americans learned about it.
Oh, right. Yeah. I saw that movie.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that it was the NSA.
But so this is still as they've remained a secret, and he goes on in. And we get a first of many jargon dumps as he goes there. We get this, the NSA spoke of stream ciphers, self-decimated generators, knapsack variants, zero-knowledge protocols, and unicity points. And those are going to come up more throughout the book, and sometimes they get elaborated on. Like this point, they do not.
Yes. So they throw a bunch of code at him. We get no sense of who they are. This is very quickly gotten over. They just hand him this, or they read dialect or give him something, give him little bits or something. Mm-hmm. But it says here, and this makes me feel way less safe. Each time he gave them a translation, the cryptographers shook their heads in despair. It's just like, are cryptographers at the NSA easily despair like that? Like, that does not seem a very solid trait. It's like, oh God, no. Relax, relax. We have other guys. We have other resources.
Right. You're interpreting messages that are like nuclear attack planned on U.S. soil. So you ought to be able to hold it a bit more together, because you're going to have to probably help people stop that attack.
And then so we talked about this beforehand. So his big breakthrough is, and I don't know if you have any insight on this. I didn't really understand that he was using the wrong translations. Oh, he'd been given Mandarin translations, but then he said, let's try the kanji. And like magic, everything fell into place. Yeah,
so the cryptographers were doing this all wrong, and he had this insight because he knows 6 Asian dialects. And I did not have any insights into this, but many listeners wrote in. I guess we have a shockingly high number of Japanese speakers on this in this listenership. So we got 4 separate emails from people. I'm gonna paraphrase from them, but this does not add up.
Oh, okay.
This is like what's your area of expertise? It would be like if you read something about Beethoven that was 100% factually inaccurate, passed off as pop science, essentially.
Oh, right.
Okay. Or if I read something about Alf, and it was like, he came from the planet Blorg-9. And I'm like, well, that's not true. But yeah, so this is what Andy wrote in. He said, I may not be the youngest full professor at Georgetown, but I speak Japanese, some Chinese, and have done translation in the past, including translating the cheesy squid legs package that Mike ate on Like Trees Walking.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay. But he said, kanji are not individual words. Japanese is a highly contextual language, and kanji are used as a mix with other Japanese original characters. The characters largely have a similar basic meaning across the languages they're used in, and can help you figure out something you don't know if presented in context, even if not exactly the same. But presenting them out of context would be like having individual letters or stretches of letters. So David's revelation would not help there. Mike wrote in, said, kanji isn't a language, it's part of the writing system. Kanji are pronounced differently in Japanese, but their meanings are usually similar or identical to the Chinese, so the codebreaker's confusion makes no sense. And he also goes on to say that just writing it in just kanji would be bizarre and nonsensical and involve, at a minimum, dropping grammatical particles. Think caveman or robot speech. And then Theodore said, according to Chapter 3, he's mentioned 6 Asian dialects. I'm assuming Dan Brown doesn't know the difference between a dialect and a language, and didn't feel like looking up 3 more languages after listing Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. For what it's worth, Japanese has 17 dialects. The alternative is that Dan Brown thinks all Asian people speak the same language, which would make him even less culturally aware than Ernest Klein. And then one more guy, Thomas, says, the fact that Brown describes kanji as a language when in the very next package he correctly identifies it as a Japanese writing system derived from Chinese characters is frustrating. Anyone with the passing knowledges of East Asian languages can distinguish between Chinese and Japanese writing at a glance, so it makes no sense that an entire room full of NSA codebreakers working for hours would fail to notice what they were working with. So, yeah, it doesn't seem like entirely accurate. So take that into account as we read future things about codes and Schrodinger's cats and all these things.
What is the name for that phenomenon where you read something and pass over it, or take it as, accept it on face value that it's true, and then you turn the page and see something you know about and go, that's not true at all, and then blithely read on assuming the rest of it is true?
If it doesn't have one, I think the Dan Brown kanji syndrome would be a fine thing to assign to that.
But then, so he does his little job. He gets the breakthrough, and he's leaving. Sticks his head into a couple of fountains on the way. Can't help himself. But he's stopped because and now we get the greatest "the doctor is a woman" moment I think I've read in quite some time. The head of the cryptography division wants to talk to him. She's on her way out now. She? Becker laughed, spitting out 1 quart of orange juice onto the person.
Yeah, he italicizes she. And then he says he had yet to see a female inside the NSA. Is that a problem for you? A woman's voice asked from behind him. Becker turned and immediately felt himself flush. The head of the NSA's cryptography division was not only a woman, but an attractive woman at that. So it just goes on to emphasize it's like, I need a comparison. Like, how attractive a woman can she be? Because it seems like she's coming to work like red carpet ready, but also like really sexualized too. Like from the way that all these people look at her. So it's like
bra barely visible,
right?
Yeah,
and also
this moment is supposed to be. What's the movie with Tom Cruise and You Can't Handle the Truth?
Few Good Men.
Yeah, A Few Good Men, where he has to work with a woman, and she's standing behind him. And
oh wow,
is that going to be a problem, Tom Cruise? No, ma'am. That's what it's supposed to be. So,
right.
Just picture that in your head.
And I spoke too early when I said that we didn't know how attractive she was. We needed some signifier because as she smiles, she holds out her she holds out her slender hand. And I don't know about you, but to me, slender implies long fingers, and the streak continues.
Yep. I mean, you can't have a slender hand without them. The fingers will then appear long.
Yeah, exactly. They're not, her slender hand with her stubby fingers. And then, so after the meeting, 10 minutes later, Becker was in the NSA's commissary enjoying a popover and cranberry juice with the NSA's lovely head cryptographer, Susan Fletcher. The food is weird in this book. And I guess this guy is just powering down the sugar and carbs to maintain his chiseled physique.
This, again, seems like unforced errors in description, revealing stuff about yourself. Like, I'm really into these weird fruit and pastry combinations.
Airy pastries, yeah.
Okay, but keep them out of your book.
Yeah.
People don't normally power these things down, so just go with something a little more generic or something.
We went to Acadia National Park a couple years ago, and a friend had been there, and he said, like, "Oh, you got to pop into this lodge or something. They're known for their popovers." And that checked out when you read like the reviews of it. It was like, we went in here for popovers. And I'm like, everyone's just going here for a popover, something that is essentially a dinner roll that you have to put lard up with jam and butter to make it have any sort of resembling a good taste. We did not go.
Aren't popovers the better ones? There's like less popover to it, right? The middle is just empty, and
it's like a muffin top.
Shell.
Yeah. It's a like flaky pastry top. Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't know. It's kind of like bread sticks. Are you going to lead with that? I mean,
yeah.
Seriously, it's a piece of bread, but it's in the form of a stick.
You get unlimited of them too.
Oh, great!
Yeah, they don't have salt on them like a pretzel. It's like an unsalted. Anyway, we're going to get Big Popover angry at us now.
Oh man, and Big Cranberry, which is in my neighboring Wisconsin, I believe, makes most of the cranberry juice.
They're bogs, yeah.
Yeah, you see them everywhere. All right, so he misses his squash match to stay and eat popovers with the unbelievably attractive head of the NSA cryptography division.
And they start bantering. With a heavy heart, I must inform you.
They start bantering, and let's see what. Oh yeah, she gets off a great joke. I just want to point out that so they sit and they talk for hours, and then we ... It's a little bit later. Their courtship was slow and romantic. Like moments later, they told us that it was immediate infatuation. Now it's very, very slow, and they're circling each other. They're not sure what to do with each other. But we get a lot of funny banter, and Here, I'll just read this one, and then I'll tell you. I took a little adventure after I heard this banter, and well, anyway. What sport did you say you play? Susan teased. Zucchini.
Was that preceded by play any sports? I'm a black belt in Stairmaster. And the response to that is quite legitimate, actually, after all the weird behavior. Becker cringed. So, yeah, we're all Becker in that moment.
Now, put a pin in your notes because I have to skip ahead just a little bit.
Okay.
Just to pull this off. So you might have more notes here. But here's describing her. Her delicate European features and soft brown eyes reminded him of an ad for Estee Lauder. If Susan's body had been lank, is everyone pulling up your platonic ideal of an Estee Lauder ad? I don't know if he's talking print or TV. I don't know.
Yeah.
If Susan's body had been lanky and awkward as a teenager, it sure wasn't now. Somewhere along the way, she had developed a willowy grace, slender and tall, with full, firm breasts and a perfectly flat abdomen.
Ooh.
David often joked that she was the first swimsuit model he'd ever met with a doctorate in applied mathematics and number theory. So he often joked.
He often makes that. Yeah, that's his introduction at parties.
I don't know if that gets old, but I wanted to find out. So I took to the local open stage.
Oh, wow.
I put together a quick routine based on the humor of this chapter. And
Type 5?
I had to pull the ripcord before 5.
Okay. Well, we've been doing a lot of tight 5s lately, so.
Yeah. If you are not a Quarantine Mini fan, we did some stand up, and so I felt like I was, I dusted off the old talents, and it did not go all that well. So so I recorded it, and let's give it a listen.
Sure.
All right, so give it up for David Becker. Hey, everyone. Great looking crowd. Yeah. Except this guy here. He's looking down like he's tired. You okay, sir? Yeah, just tired. Played a lot of squash today. What's that? You played a lot of zucchini today? Zucchini. Doesn't matter. I've been dating a woman recently. She has delicate European features and soft brown eyes. Reminds me of an ad for Estee Lauder. Now, my girlfriend... blender drinks. Anyway, my girlfriend had been lanky and awkward as a teenager, but she sure isn't now. I mean, somewhere along the way, she developed a willowy grace, slender and tall, with full, firm breasts and a perfectly flat abdomen. She's the first swimsuit model I've ever met with a doctorate in applied mathematics and number theory. Can we wait on that? Anyway, as I was saying, she's the first swimsuit model I've ever met with a doctorate in applied mathematics and number theory. You already said that. I know, I often joke about it. Would you shut that off? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of hate it there.
Did they bring out like the shepherd's crook to pull you off with that one?
The light in back was furiously flashing. I'll just say that. Yeah.
The blended drink sounded delicious, though. I don't know if I have the means to make any of those, but the first time I get to go out again, I'm going to have one of those.
Cranberry and a quart of orange juice, I assume.
Oh man, well yeah. So I guess when he often jokes about that, that's probably the similar to the reception he would get.
Yes. Now.
Yeah, let me backdate some of this because we've got some information. It says that Susan blushed and admitted she'd been a late bloomer, lanky and awkward with braces through her late teens. Susan said her Aunt Clara had once told her God's apology for Susan's plainness was to give her brains. A premature apology, Becker thought. Wow, Aunt Clara invoking the name of the Almighty to say that he had cursed her. Essentially, with his plain features, And
Wow.
she's all that character. She's the ugly duckling cliche.
Why did he need to backfill that in there? Is it just going to be something about her character, or because I mean she's just been hot, and
I don't know.
Who cares that she was not hot before?
Maybe it's what keeps her modest or something, or I don't know. It's maybe the world of the Dan Brown readership just couldn't comprehend that a woman could have 170 IQ but also be this hot. I don't know.
They also went, she? When they heard that. She has another amazing trait. She is annoyed by this. In Susan's eyes, David was as close to perfect as she could imagine. Yes. Chiseled out of marble, head in the drinking fountain. He
That's
sounds like a
close
dream
to
come
perfect.
true.
Yeah, I guess so.
He only had one unfortunate quality. What is this? Does he scratch himself? Does he wear shorts too short? And you
Online
can
racist, maybe.
You can see his, his jock strap occasionally. That would
picks
be annoying.
his teeth with he cuts his toenails, uses the toenail clipping to pick his teeth.
When he eats potato chips, he does that thing of like digging them out of his back tooth and swallowing them. No, it's none of that. Every time they went out, he insisted on picking up the check. What an a-hole. Susan hated seeing him lay down a full day's salary on dinner for two, but Becker was immovable.
Unbelievable.
Susan learned not to protest, but it still bothered her. I
It's
make more money than I know what to do with, she thought. I should be paying.
Yeah, so it seems like he's actually like eking out like potentially a grocery store bagger's job. If he's laying down a full day's salary on dinner for two in 1998, dinner for two is probably, unless they're doing something super fancy, that's like $100. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. But it doesn't comport his. He has to have a secret stream of money.
Yeah,
and that must be a plot point or something.
Well, that's like at the stereotypical job interview question of your biggest fault, and you're too hard of a worker. Like that's his one unfortunate quality. He's too nice and generous.
Right. And it annoyed her.
But this was also another good thing that fits into the food theme established before. Whether it was during trips to the Smithsonian, bike rides, or burning spaghetti in Susan's kitchen, David was perpetually curious. And I guess that's sort of meant to be a joke. Like, I'm a bad enough cook that I could burn spaghetti. But if it is, it fell flat with me because I was just like, how did they possibly do this? Like, in what? Did you let the water boil off for an hour and then have the pasta at the bottom of the thing in a paste that then burnt to the bottom of the thing? It annoyed me.
Right. It was obviously going for. You've seen montages where people fall in love and they cook food together. But here's my little twist on it. They're burning the spaghetti. But he didn't think enough about it to go, wait, people don't actually do that. So burn some steaks. I don't know, whatever.
Right.
Here's I'll read this sentence, and then I have I think a pretty good comparison to what's happening here. He asks her what it's like what her job is, with cryptography, and he says, "You of all people should know." She says, "It's like studying a foreign language. At first, the text looked like gibberish, but as you learn the rules defining the structure, you can start to extract meaning." Becker nodded, impressed. So you're a professor of comparative literature at Oxford. Tell me about this Shakespeare guy. Yeah, he wrote plays. They're pretty good. He wrote them in English, but is it a little bit different English? Becker nodded, impressed.
That's a new Robot Pimp challenge.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, that is the most. She gives him a basic. She doesn't even actually restate what it is, just some the shallowest understanding. As you learn the rules. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Then you start to learn.
They told me you had 170 IQ.
This is the best. I'm smarter than that. You don't have to dumb it that far down for me.
Well, this is the last note I have for this chapter, but it's a big one. It's more sort of detail about how she got her job at the NSA. So it says that she applied to the NSA at age 28, and at that point she was the youngest candidate and also the only female candidate they had. Again, 1998. It seems a little too young, a little too recently for that to be the case, but who knows? They underwent individual polygraph tests, background searches, handwriting analyses, and endless hours of interviews, including taped inquiries into their sexual orientations and practices. When the interviewer asked Susan if she'd ever engaged in sex with animals, she'd almost walked out, but somehow the mystery carried her through. Becker sat riveted by her stories. They actually asked you if you had sex with animals? Susan shrugged. We get more banter here. Part of the routine background check. Well, David fought off a grin. What did you say? She kicked him under the table. I told them no. And until last night, it was true.
Oh.
Yeah. But, so again, I was curious about only female candidate in 1998. Really? And is the NSA really asking this sort of thing? I've had friends that have done background checks before or something. So I went looking to see if this was actually NSA standard procedure. And since it is the NSA, they record everything.
Sure.
They're bugging, they bug themselves. And so there was an info dump, like a WikiLeaks cable that ended up on the dark web of these type of interviews.
Oh, wow. So was that in the Julian Assange put it up there himself personally?
I think so. Or maybe one of his underlings. It didn't get all the same press as some of the war crimes did, but it was definitely part of that same thing that just sort of flew under the radar till now, because I guess no one wanted to listen to them, or no one typed sex with animals into the search queue type of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
But, so I downloaded that. We can queue it up just to see more of what the interview was actually like.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah, let's run it.
Cool. Thank you for coming in, Miss Fletcher. It's highly unconventional for the NSA to hire such a young and female candidate, but I assure you we're not going to give you any special treatment just because you're jaw-droppingly attractive.
Thank you?
Is it true you were considered for the Phoebe Cates scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Just for that scene? And how would that even work?
But that's not important. We just have some questions for you, Miss Fletcher, to weed out the unsavory candidates. Answer truthfully. Nobody's judging you. Nobody's watching from a secret room and pulling a Judge Reinhold from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Stop mentioning that movie.
Okay. Have you ever used marijuana?
No.
Cocaine?
No.
Heroin?
No.
What about prostitution?
What? No.
Ever been paid for sex or paid for sex?
Of course not.
Done any looning?
No.
Blow to pop?
No.
Have you ever had sex with any animals?
What?
These are all standard questions. There's no need to get defensive.
I haven't had sex with any animals.
Okay. If you did, what animal would be your go-to?
That doesn't seem appropriate at all.
Chimp? Dolphin? Maybe pull a Catherine the Great?
Please, move on to a different topic. I don't want to bang any animal.
Very well. What about Alf?
What about him?
Gordon Shumway. Would you have sex with him?
I just said...
Alf is not an animal.
Alf is definitely an animal.
Alf is a Melmacian. He's an intelligent biped.
He's covered in fur and has a snout.
And yet, he developed a romantic attachment to Lynn Tanner. Even wrote and performed her a love song.
What the hell does this even have to do with...
It was called You're the One Who's Out of This World.
What the hell does this have to do with my code breaking?
Gonna put that as a maybe.
Do not.
How about Mario?
The video game character?
Uh-huh. He's a person, right?
He's a 16-bit graphic.
So you're prejudiced against Italians.
No. Look, sure, maybe if Mario was a real man.
And what if he was wearing the raccoon suit?
Unbelievable.
Raccoon suit versus full-body Tanuki suit. Does that make a difference?
I don't think these are standard questions.
What about this? Would you be okay with your picture being used to make a line of body pillow waifus?
Of course not.
What if a line of body pillow waifus was already rolling out in Japan based on pictures I took from the bushes outside your house every day?
The NSA is employing people to lurk outside my house and take photos of me?
Oh, I don't work for the NSA.
Hey, you got in here again. Hey, you! Hey, get out of here!
Gotta go! So yeah, it was, I guess, a guy who was a little, he had gone rogue a bit. But Dan Brown left that detail out of the, but.
Wow.
Specific
it's interesting that they
questions.
do bug themselves, but I guess that's true.
It's on brand, yeah.
Man, weird. I did know a guy who was doing an interview for a fairly prominent CEO position, and they do that kind of garbage. And
Oh, really?
It amused the heck out of me. He was less interested in telling me what kind of things they asked. I was far more interested. Where they're tossing, high-level questions at you, and then while you're trying to figure them out, hitting you with embarrassing sophomoric questions, and you have to, see what your temperament is.
Cool under pressure, yeah.
Yeah, it seems pretty low-level stuff, like hazing stuff. But
Right.
But hey, if it gets the job done for them.
It would be, a good long con to rise to that level where you're interviewing for those positions and then just, lean into every single one of them.
Yeah,
well,
just
sure.
burn it down.
Yeah. We had a weird college fraternity initiation. I mean, I don't do it anymore.
Right. Would you believe raccoon? That's right. Not very common in that community, but...
Well, that's it for chapter 3 for me. I want to do...
Same here. It gets into kind of technical stuff.
Yeah. But chapter 4, I don't have a lot of notes, but it introduces the translator, which left out the A and the O at the end of the word. So the NSA pioneered the sort of early aughts internet site naming conventions of Flickr
I wondered if this came to your mind. If you can imagine one of our favorite characters speaking this word. That would be Rod from Birdemic. Translator.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it looks like the agreed upon spelling of SLR PNL, I think.
Yeah, Solopin. Translator.
Oh, Rod. But yeah, so that was the NSA's computer. I don't know if they get into how it was built here, but they really get bogged down in how this came to be. And there weren't too many things that stood out other than I got a fun 1998 sentence, which was, email had the security of conventional mail and the speed of the telephone. So that is sort of like, I guess, how you would pitch it to your grandparents in the early 90s.
Yeah, there's a long, deep dive into things that I didn't understand. I assume anyone who does understand this stuff is probably finding the same sorts of errors that we got from kanji and all of that.
Yeah, it's about sort of how codes work, how you brute force codes, which that's a term I'm familiar with for just trying to guess a password. And that essentially they developed this supercomputer that can brute force any method of encryption, regardless of how long the encryption key is, in around 10 minutes, which was unsurpassed in this world. It used to take weeks, if not months, to do this, which would render any code you were trying to break obsolete if it was an attack planned or something.
Right, and translator is like it's like a silo underground kind of with power. The sources running to it and cooling towers and all of this.
Yeah, they welded it shut after putting in 1 million microprocessors. With a couple readers pointed out, like, what if something needs to be replaced? Why did you have to weld it shut?
That's a good question.
But they talked about how they then leaked word that it was. They essentially do the we will deny all knowledge of your mission. Like they leaked that they had not been unable to get it to work, so that all the ne'er-do-wells would continue to send their emails with impunity, not fearing that they had this translator built.
Well, here's a description of these ne'er-do-wells. This is one of the few sentences in this chapter that stood out to me. Drug lords, terrorists, and embezzlers alike, weary of having their cellular phone transmissions intercepted, were turning to the exciting new medium of encrypted email for instantaneous global communications. So they're hanging their heads because they're ordering these bombings of full hockey stadiums or whatever, and they're being intercepted, and they're like, this just gets tiring. I've got an exciting new medium for you.
There's an intern who's got a copy of Wired who's like, well, sir, I read that in an old timey newsreel voice. Drug lords, terrorists, and embezzlers alike, weary of having their cell phone transmission intercepted, were turning to the exciting new medium of encrypted email for instantaneous global communications.
Oh, perfect! Yeah, you could also easily leap to infomercial with the terrorist blowing frustrated hair off of his forehead after his thing was encrypted, and then the exciting new medium of encrypted email. And then everything turns color and he's super happy.
Yeah. Has this ever happened to you? And it's a guy being, tortured in a off-site location. Well, try email. That could be a...
So he goes on and on about this encryption and kind of glosses over the fact that the NSA, he says, just sort of, they need to do this. Like, we have to intercept all stuff. We have to have the ability at all times to intercept all communications, which is... This is thorny stuff we're getting into here.
Yes.
Very complex issue, but he nails it with a scant few sentences towards the end. Civil rights groups rejoiced, insisting the NSA shouldn't be reading their email anyway. Encryption software kept rolling off the presses, which is, I guess, something that encrypted.
I missed that one.
The NSA had lost the battle exactly as it had planned. The entire electronic global community had been fooled, ... Or so it seemed. So he's just putting a little bow on what all the issues are around the NSA intercepting all of our community.
Right, yes.
they're kind of annoyed, and then they rejoice when they find out they're not. So,
right.
Okay.
Yeah, the ethics at stake are, I guess, characters later object to that, but it is sort of hand waved away. A few people objected, but
right. Right. What's the name of the group? Which I think is the real group. The
Electronic Frontier Foundation. Yeah, yes. Who is very real and is sort of like I guess an online ACLU type of group. But yeah, they seem to be being made out to be the villains in here, which they sort of have a position that a lot of people would probably agree with, regardless of a lot of issues. Like don't look at our shit. It's a violation of the Constitution, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
But enough about that. Why don't we end chapter 4 and move into real or fanfic?
All right.
There it is.
I'm out of shape. I don't know.
I know. You haven't been running up mountains and pushing huge tractor tires in the off season?
I have not. I haven't been looking at things that could be either real or fanfic and guessing in my spare time. It's not something that's readily available in real world.
All right. Well, I think the first ones are always the hardest before you latch on to what people are turning to or what the author really is all about. So we've got passages that might come from later in Digital Fortress and passages that our listeners wrote in order to try to fool Mike that they are real. And you're going to guess which ones are which. Traditionally, we do 5. I did 6 this time just because we had so many come in. So
I'm ready. I have my pencil.
Here's number 1. They make a great carpaccio, Hale smiled. What do you say? Afterward, we could forget it. Snob. Hale sighed and turned back to his terminal. That was strike 89 with Susan Fletcher. The brilliant female cryptographer was a constant frustration to him. Hale had often fantasized about having sex with her, pinning her against Translator's curved hull and taking her right there against the warm black tile. But Susan would have nothing to do with him. In Hale's mind, what made things worse was she was in love with some university teacher who slaved for hours on end for peanuts. It would be a pity for Susan to dilute her superior gene pool, procreating with some geek, particularly when she could have Greg. We'd have perfect children, he thought.
Oh, man. My vote on this is going to be aspirational in that I hope this is fanfic, so I'm going to say it's fanfic.
All right. Let's see. Number 2. David Becker arrived in a cloud stirred up by the taxi, its yellow and white stripes now obscured by a patina of dust. The driver flicked on the green light, indicating availability with a grim look after taking David's proffered outrageous tip and sincere thanks. The amphitheater of Italica, where their source indicated they should meet. David idly read some of the tourist information as he thought carefully of his approach. The amphitheater was constructed under the orders of Emperor Hadrian and was composed of brick and hewn stone. It had originally played host to gladiator battles. In fact, most of the events carried out inside the theater were considered blood sports. And so its grand tradition continues, mused David.
Well, okay. Dan Brown, History Man, Hadrian, I'll bite. I'll say it's real.
All right. Here's number 3. It wasn't just cryptography. Your fiancé was also working with us on developing an AI program. AI, Susan repeated. You mean artificial intelligence? Rodrigo nodded. We had developed we, we had developed one that was able to pass the Turing test. The Turing test was a test to see if a computer program could trick a person into believing that the program was a person too. It was developed by Alan Turing, one of the mathematicians on the team that deciphered the German Enigma code during World War II. In 1950, he published a paper proposing that a language program, now known as a chatterbot, could be considered smart if a person could not tell if they were speaking to the program or an actual human at least 50% of the time. That's quite significant, Susan said. But why did you need David? He's not even a programmer. Well, have you ever heard of the Chinese thought room experiment? Susan had.
Well, I'm going to say that it's fanfic because the Enigma was already mentioned, and so she would not have to have who Turing was explained to her.
All right.
So that's going to be but I'm not saying that that's not a mistake of the book. So, but I'm still going to say fanfic.
All right, number 4. Open the glove compartment, Susan said. David pulled its handle, revealing a keyboard and tiny monitor display in front of his lap. What's this? Our lifeline back to crypto, Susan replied. This car is equipped with a remote transmitter that directs an oscillating frequency to translator. We can send encrypted messages directly to Chartrukian, but Strathmore won't be able to detect us right away. How much time do we have? David asked. 3 minutes at most. I wouldn't count on more than 2.
Oh, that is, subtle. I'm going to say that that's fanfic.
Okay. Number 5. Becker gazed down at the cadaver. Even hours after death, the Asian's face radiated with a pinkish glow of a recent sunburn. The rest of him was a pale yellow, all except the small area of purplish bruising directly over his heart. Probably from CPR, Becker mused. Too bad it didn't work. He went back to studying the cadaver's hands. They were like nothing Becker had ever seen. Each hand had only 3 digits, and they were twisted and askew. The disfigurement, however, was not what Becker was looking at. Well, I'll be, the lieutenant grunted from across the room. He's Japanese, not Chinese.
Well, I'd like to do the aspirational on that, but I have a weird feeling that's real.
Okay. Last one, number 6. David thanked the waiter, eyeing the pair of hamburgers and baskets of fries. He snatched a pair of French fries from the basket and stuffed them into his mouth, chewing as he talked. So if Numataka is using the net to set up the distributed network, can't we just watch everything that comes over the wire? Susan shook her head. No, that's not how it works. They're able to exchange the keys out in the open, but we can't do anything with them. David furrowed his brow. Why not? If we have the key and know where to intercept the data, what is stopping us from simply using it? You remember Diffie-Hellman? David started to answer, but strapped his mouth shut. Susan grabbed the bottles of ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise. Say we want to exchange a key in the clear where anyone could get it. We agree to exchange ketchup, and now Numakata knows we are using ketchup as half our key. But you have mustard, and I have mayonnaise as our secret. So without Numakata knowing, we mix our secret condiments with the ketchup. Susan squirted 2 blods of ketchup on the plate, then added a dollop of mustard to one and mayonnaise to the other. She mixed them together. Now we have 2 different keys.
Question on that one?
Yeah.
Diffie-Hellman?
Yes, Diffie-Hellman.
Diffie-Hellman. That's a name?
I assume it's one of those principles that they are constantly dumping on us.
Oh, I thought suddenly there was.
No! It's not. It's like the Bader-Meinhof.
Okay, it's not one of Woodhouse's characters who raises newts.
Right.
Okay. I don't know. It's tough. I have to say fanfic.
Okay. Well, you did pretty well. You did pretty well. But you missed the first one. You missed the first one where Greg Hale was fantasies about banging her against the side of translator.
No.
We have that to look forward to. He's inviting her out for Carpaccio, but she's turning him down, even though she's dating this poor geek. I don't know who that guy is, but I'm looking forward to it. Number 2 was the taxi where the blood sports and Hadrian. Yeah. You said real. That was fanfic written by Patrick.
Okay.
It was well done. I liked the I liked the capper to that one. It's very Dan Brown, and so its grand tradition continues.
Right.
Number 3, you said fanfic. That was the Turing test. That was fanfic. That was written by Curtis. I thought it was good. I liked the way that he introduced 2 different. Have you heard of this? And then explaining them things. That was something that a lot of the writers this time around seized on,
Right.
Because it happened, I think, 3 times in this section.
Oh yeah, I hadn't picked up on that yet.
Oh yeah, I mean there was like I don't remember, but I thought it happened. But number 4 was open the glove compartment, 2-3 minutes at most. That was, you said fanfic. That was fanfic written by David. Number 5 was the Asian's face radiated a pinkish glow. He's Japanese, not Chinese. You said real. That is real. Sarah submitted that one. It's odd. I don't know what it means when it says the rest of him was a pale yellow, but
Yeah.
again, 1998. But yeah, so real. I think you are 4 for 5 at this point in time, and then you said number 6. The condiment illustration of a principle. You said fanfic. That was fanfic written by Eric. I only realized reading it out loud that he put a little joke in there with Diffie Hellman as she's doing the
Yes.
thing, illustrating with mayonnaise. So maybe that was a tip off. But settle down with your.
It did cross my mind.
With
yes.
your in jokes in the fanfic, people. We don't need to make them any easier for him to guess. Damn it. So yeah, 5 out of 6. Well done. Step up your game, people.
No,
I thought
4 out of 6 because of the first 2 were.
I'm sorry. Yep, 4 out of 6. Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Still, I mean, slightly above guessing.
Right, exactly. But yeah, a lot of those people were Patreon supporters, and like we have alluded to before, we've been doing a Patreon daily mini updates for everybody. We're going to be trying our hand at writing our own novel here with the Patreon supporters. So a lot of fun. Patreon.com/372 pages. Give it a shot. Give it a follow if you care to support the podcast. Thank you, everybody who does.
Yes, I'm feeling the glow of a minor victory.
Well, don't bask in that too long because we got a lengthy meeting chapter coming up. We always know that meetings in our Riff Tracks movies make for the best, most dynamic scenes. Specifically thinking of that one in Plan 9 that is just 2 army brass guys talking at a desk in front of a world map with a flag on the wall for
deadly. Yes, we meet Strathmore.
Yeah, Commander, one of the greatest men Susan has ever met.
A father figure to her. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Who is he trying to get to? Maybe Scott Glenn. I've brought Scott Glenn up before.
You mean as an actor?
He's an actor. Yeah, he's
man.
going for some. I don't know. Maybe
That guy looks like Richard Branson.
who's kind of a rugged but gruff but lovable guy right now who has the gravitas to carry this off.
I was thinking of he was in like one of the X-Men movies, Brian something. He's an old guy. He's not like
Bryan Cranston.
No, not Bryan Cranston. He's definitely older. Crap.
All right, we're wasting podcast time trying to come up with the actor.
Not Brendan Gleeson, who's like the other version of that.
The other version of Brendan Gleeson is your clue to me.
Fine. Someone knows who I'm talking about. Some guy gets it. Dan Brown is only 55? I just had that up in my... Wow.
He's 55 now?
Yeah, that is stunning. Born in June 22nd, 1964.
Wow.
So yeah, probably doesn't have grandkids. No grandpa, no.
Yeah, but this was 1998. He was pretty
Yeah,
young.
well, man. Brother. Anyway.
So she's under he's a mentor, a father figure, and he takes care of her because she's the only female cryptographer there at the NSA, and then this stunning thing happens.
Brian Cox.
Oh yeah, Brian Cox.
So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. Go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt because this is the second best part of the book.
One morning during her first year, Susan dropped by the new cryptographers' lounge to get some paperwork. There's a lounge where they have paperwork. Okay. As she left, she noticed a picture of herself on the bulletin board. She almost fainted in embarrassment. There she was, reclining on a bed and wearing only panties. As it turned out, one of the cryptographers had digitally scanned a photo from a pornographic magazine and edited Susan's head onto someone else's body. The effect had been quite convincing.
Wow. Yeah, so again, 1998, not not 1957, where even if this, still unacceptable, but you could imagine that scene in a movie.
Yeah.
And not like, a forwarded email or like, cornering someone in the break room being like, check this out and passing it to them. Just posted out.
Hanging up in the lounge.
And so he goes on to say that he fired this guy immediately, which what did the guy think was going to happen?
Yeah, that's supposed to be, and she says, or he says here that after that, nobody messed with her again. Like, well, everyone, I assume, would already know not to do this, number one. And number two, that if they did do it, of course they were going to get fired.
Yeah.
This is not a brave act of someone protecting her. This is like, well, absolutely 100%.
Yeah,
mandatory firing.
Yeah, you'd be the sort of thing where the guy's packing up his desk and it's like, what was in the cookies he brought and put in like the break room? Like, now I'm worried about that. Like, he's an actual psychopath.
Yes.
Like, even if you hadn't scanned her head onto it, you went into the break room and posted pornography on the bulletin board. But again, like it gives you that sort of grandpa no moment of revealing a little too much, I would say.
Right. I worked for a brief time with a person who was in PETA, was a PETA person. Uh-huh. And would put the very graphic posters of like hogshead droppers, in the break room. And the boss had to say, no, you can't do that.
Of what, just dead animals?
Yeah, just revolting.
Dismembered
animals and stuff like that. And, meat is murder. And no, you can't hang those in the common area. Like, what? Why? It's just informational.
Oh, the freedom of speech doesn't apply here? It absolutely doesn't. It's
stunning, though, that she really felt like this is really infringing.
I'm going to change minds.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was I thought a delightful moment, but it, as meant to demonstrate his thing, and as opposed to just like a normal way, you could be like, come on guys, like, I'm sticking up for her, and anyone who makes fun of her's got to go through me. It was a truly crazed moment.
Yeah, it probably didn't even, she probably assumes it was him, but it was just the HR guy going, I'll just sign it with his name. It's not going to, of course he's fired.
Yes, yeah, really. We just got to keep this under wraps so the, $10 million lawsuit doesn't happen.
But here's a little section where the metaphors come at us fast and furiously. And it's talking about Strathmore and Leland Fontaine, the head of the whole thing.
Yeah, Strathmore's second in command.
Yes. Now, only one man outranked Commander Strathmore there, Director Leland Fontaine, the mythical overlord of the Puzzle Palace, never seen, occasionally heard, and eternally feared. He and Strathmore seldom saw eye to eye, and when they met, it was like the clash of the titans. Okay, we're on giants now. We were on overlords. Fontaine was a giant among giants. Great, stay with it. But Strathmore didn't seem to care. He argued his ideas to the director with all the restraint of an impassioned boxer. So we got...
That was the one I showed to Lauren.
We got mythical overlords, titans, giants, and boxers.
Yeah.
Three sentences.
But he's... So... Someone who's known for arguing their ideas. What would you say? High school debate champion, a congressman, a UN representative. Like, when was the last time you heard a boxer make an impassioned case for something? Like, what on earth is that? How did he pick that? I understand that he's saying like, but a boxer is impassioned. Like, he means he's like throwing haymakers type of thing.
I guess. I mean, he could have said, like he went after it with the tenacity of a bulldog or something.
Sure, yeah. If he's not concerned about just tossing in cliched metaphors, as he clearly not, since he used Clash of the Titans a few sentences earlier, he should have no problem doing that.
What it made me picture in my mind was a robot knife fight. Two guys who are like grizzled
Yeah.
grizzled dudes, but then they're titans going at each other. So of course one of the robots has a knife strapped to his metal leg and pulls that out.
Yes, Clash of the Robot Titans.
Yes,
Well, it is a digital fortress, so
that's true.
But I like this this description just to make sure that they knew that not everyone is hot as hell in this book. Strathmore was a rangy, thick-fleshed man whose muted features somehow disguise his hard-nosed efficiency and demand for perfection. A few sentences later, we get, he looked as bad as Susan had ever seen him. His thinning gray hair was disheveled. Even in the room's crisp air conditioning, his forehead was beaded with sweat. And we get one more thing later. Oh, just later, Strathmore ran a hand across his sweaty scalp. So,
Yep,
just
I
in
called
case.
that out too. We have a lot of sweaty people in our books. That's
Yeah.
another theme.
Yeah, find a water fountain, man. Like, this is unacceptable.
Long hands, sweating.
So apologies to Brian Cox, but that's who it reminded me of. Thick-fleshed is rarely going to get applied in a positive context, I think.
Well, I wonder when his photo went up, when they Photoshop someone's head on his body, and put it up.
Jabba the Hutt.
Thick-fleshed. This is funny that the thought of civilian privacy rights gets a chuckle from Susan. Strathmore shrugged. The usual, the EFF's all over me. Civilian privacy rights again. Susan chuckled. those idiots.
Yeah, it's the EFF is, if you spend any time on the internet in the early aughts, like that's who Cory Doctorow was stumping for, but it was usually just like, we're going to try to make sure that gigantic corporations can't abuse this nonsense. So it's a
Yeah. Someone's got to be policing this stuff, and it's actually very difficult because they don't want to let it go.
But the chuckle is just one of the many reactions Susan has to what he's laying down. I sort of started noticing them, and just I collected them all sort of back to back. So he gives her some bad news, but these are some of the many reactions she had. So imagine it's an Estee Lauder model,
right?
But she's just acting like a Three Stooge here, or like a Charlie Callis. Like Susan's jaw dropped. Susan stared in amazement. Susan was flabbergasted. Susan almost fell out of her chair. Susan gaped. Susan stared at him and almost laughed. So she's just having like seizures in this chair, with her 6-inch heels and pencil skirt type of outfit.
For those of you, and when I say for those of you, I mean everyone who's listening now who doesn't know Charlie Callis, please go to YouTube and look up Charlie. He probably did a Dean Martin roast or something that's going to come up as the top hit, and just see if you can comprehend what humor was back in.
It is truly stunning.
78 or so, I would guess. I don't know.
Yeah. When people say it was better when we only had 3 channels and everyone was watching the same thing and there was this cohesion in society, it was substantially worse because you were watching this and being like, I guess this is funny.
Yep. I want your reactions to Charlie Callis. I look for those in the emails.
I know him because we compared Shia LaBeouf's performance in Transformers to him as he's stammering and sweating and yelling. It's very much like that.
I think you missed one. It's towards the end. Susan's face was a blank only an instant before going white. So, yeah, she's doing all the things here.
Right. She also knows what she's doing, I think, talking to this sweaty, thick-fleshed man, because she comes in and she's just like, what's this emergency? It sounds like business as usual. What's the big emergency you got me out of the tub for? So she's probably like pulling, Sharon Stones as well on this father figure of hers to try to get him to go to bat for her.
So I don't have much on this chapter because it's one long sort of jargon-filled description of that this Ensa, what is his name? Sorry.
Ensai Tankado?
Ensai Tankado came up with an unbreakable code. So
yes.
That's all we get.
Yeah. And I think this might be where they say that the code is called Digital Fortress, and essentially it self-encrypts. That's all you need to know about it, and that means that it won't. The translator will never know when it solved it because it self-encrypts, and so it's been running for 15 hours, and that's it's in violation of the Bergovsky principle, which means that every code must be breakable. But some of the jargon I noted was Well, sir, I tried an algorithm last March with a segmented million bit key, illegal looping function, cellular automata, the works. Have you checked for error flags? Maybe translator hit a glitch. The run's clean, but the pass key must be huge. So I'm just imagining that as a episode of CSI or whatever, like their enhanced type of jargon.
Oh yeah, here we go. Here's a run of it. The jargon: PGP, Diffie, Hellman, Zip, Idea, EI, Gamal. Translator broke all of them. Sorry, translator broke all of them. DSA, and then we get a little thing on Josef Harna. A Hungarian mathematician, and on and on. So, anyway.
Is that the principle of the safe?
Yes.
Yes, Harna's safe.
The point being, the whole chapter was to establish the MacGuffin. We have this thing will kill us all. We have to have this. So that's basically what that set up.
And you said Diffie Hellman, so that's a real thing.
That's a real thing, and that's why he went to the. That was his in, I assume, on the.
Got it. All right.
The fanfic to make it mayonnaise based.
But yeah, so he's essentially put this up. Well, I think we get to that later, what he's about to do with it. But we move on to chapter 6, where we get some of Tankado's backstory.
Yeah, finally we get a picture of this guy.
Yeah, which is I found pretty entertaining.
So he. Let's see. Well, you start, because I think mine is not till a little later.
Okay. I mean, it says his backstory was that his mom traveled to Hiroshima to work as a nurse, and it was there, post, A-bomb. It was there she became one of the Hibakusha, the radiated people. 19 years later, at the age of 36, she lay in the delivery room bleeding internally. She knew she was finally going to die. What she did not know was that her death would spare her the final horror. Her only child was to be born deformed. That's getting kind of harsh.
Yeah, that is deeply harsh.
And then his father is bewildered by the loss of his wife and shamed by the arrival of what the nurses told him was an imperfect child who would probably not survive the night. He disappeared from the hospital and never came back. So, Tankado's had a rough go of it, but he doesn't really, always look on the bright side. He instead, every night, Tankado stared down at the twisted fingers holding his Daruma wish doll and swore he'd have revenge. Revenge against the country that had stolen his mother and shamed his father into abandoning him.
Well, I don't think the country shamed his father into abandoning him.
Right, yes, it does. Another mixed metaphor there, or a mixed sentence. But fortunately, salvation comes in the form of a trial of a new keyboard for handicapped children. And we get more Royal Tenenbaums here. Although Ensai Tankado had never seen a computer, it seemed he instinctively knew how to use one. So contrast that with like every time you tried to show a parent or grandparent how to do something on a computer, and it was just like, no one who's seen a computer has any idea how to use them before. Right. But this guy in Japan in the late 70s was picking up on it instantly.
And he becomes, of course, he's a wizard. And he soon Ensai Tankado was known across Tokyo as Fugusha Kisai, the crippled genius. I just thought he's probably going, you just drop the one word.
Yeah, how about Dr. Internet?
Nobody is aware of you. All you're seeing is the output. You're not watching me do it with my crippled hands, so you don't have to bring it up.
Right. It's not Mordecai Three-Fingered Brown in the 20s. This is, again, doesn't seem appropriate.
I got a really good a deal on a car from this used car salesman. Ugly Dan, I call him. I wouldn't even know that if you didn't bring it up. So.
But I liked this detail too. So he's been, every night he's staring at his twisted fingers as he prays for America's death. And then we get this. Tankado eventually read about Pearl Harbor and Japanese war crimes, and his hatred of America slowly faded. So did he think that the A-bomb was just like Harry Truman was twiddling his thumbs and was like, you know what we should do? There was a bit of a lead up to it, regardless of what you think about it.
So it faded, and he became a devout Buddhist.
Yeah.
So that was his twisted life is over. So it's a weird, supervillain thing that gets thwarted right away. Like every night he curses it, but he didn't. He became a Buddhist.
Right, yeah.
And he works for the NSA. So,
right.
No supervillain here. Don't worry about it.
But do we get I think my favorite weird food detail of the whole section so far. Despite his large salary, Tankado went to work on an old moped and ate a bag lunch alone at his desk instead of joining the rest of the department for prime rib and vichyssoise in the commissary. That was just sort of, I put the book down and be like, what on earth is going on? Like, this government agency is providing, 1, expensive prime rib, and 2, weird potato leek soup for its members. Like, not even Google would provide those, I feel like.
Vichyssoise feels like something in 1972 you would tell someone was a fancy thing.
Right.
Like as a jokey thing, in a Carol Burnett sketch or something. Oh, we're having vichyssoise tonight. It is not something that would be slung around in any commissary, no matter how well they were funded.
Yeah, the guy with the hairnets. Enjoy the vichyssoise, Mr. Tankado.
I'll cut you off a bit of this prime rib and then sling some cold soup at you.
Right, it's cold. I forgot about that detail. But yeah, if it's like a you cut to the Senate Finance Committee that's like, we're either going to cut public education or what's this? Vichyssoise. Like, get those idiots to eat some turkey sandwiches.
Yeah, congressional oversight committees when they, grilling the head of the NSA. I got a copy of your menu here. Obviously, this is a misprint, but I'll read it anyway. You can laugh it off, but you're not eating vichyssoise at the NSA, are you?
This starts a Mr. Smith 17-hour filibuster to defend his vichyssoise.
Oh, why the weird food choices, Dan Brown? Why?
I hope they keep coming.
Keep them coming, of course.
Delightful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so essentially he gets Ensai gets outraged because it's sort of revealed that I guess that Translator is going to be able to read every email. It's not just going to require a search warrant, essentially.
Yeah, so he becomes the whistleblower,
right?
And he leaves.
Right. But again, he gets mad at the NSA for spying on people. Is sort of like your former coworker going to McDonald's and being like, you're not vegetarians here? Like, this will not stand. Like, right. You didn't really read the room right when you walked in the door here.
And unfortunately, instead of, sharpieing a wang onto the side of Translator, he makes the digital fortress instead out of his anger. So that's where we are.
But this detail was provided but not elaborated on. It says that they had no choice but to stop him. He was captured and deported. And widely publicized among online news groups had been an unfortunate public shaming. Against Strathmore's wishes, the NSA damage control specialists, nervous that Tankado would try to convince people of Translator's existence, generated rumors that destroyed his credibility, and he was shunned by the global computer community. And they keep alluding to these things without revealing what these rumors are, why he's been shunned, what the public shaming is, and we're left to imagine it on our own. So,
shunned by the global computer community doesn't seem like a thing that would turn me into a supervillain.
Right, but think about what the global computer community is down with, and then what it would require to be shunned by them, and it starts to become a fairly short list. So
that's true. I feel like maybe it's the remember in Arrested Development when Job gets kicked out of the Magicians Guild or something. It means everything to him. We don't really understand it, but okay, fine.
Right,
He's shunned by the computer community.
Well, that's it for that chapter for me. It's Tankado's backstory, and as we all know from the prologue, he was found dead in Spain earlier in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they discuss in chapter 7.
Yes, chapter 7. This one is jargony as hell too, isn't it?
Yeah. This is where they introduced the title Digital Fortress.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So here's my first question about it. Then it probably would embed the algorithm in a tamper-proof chip, and within 5 years, every computer would come preloaded with a digital fortress chip.
Mm-hmm.
So they went pretty quick to that there's something that's called a tamper-proof chip. And we're just supposed to accept that. So this is them speculating that, if we don't stop it, every computer in the future will be safe from us spying on them. Right. So that's the emergency that we're supposed to get caught up in, right? Like, well, we have to stop this.
Right.
Because
yes.
I would never want to buy a computer that nobody could spy on me.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's sort of like if you don't have anything to hide, like type of thing. Because they pretty much just say, we won't be able to stop terrorists. That's their hook for the rest of us.
Yes. Yeah. And if the price we have to pay is that we don't get to have tamper-proof chips preloaded with Digital Fortress, so be it. Right.
Yeah, and maybe the tamper-proof chips are just welded shut like Translator is. We don't know.
Yeah, right.
But he does a lot of this of just, here's the way it works. If you don't know anything about this, you're probably going to believe it. So nails on a chalkboard if you do, but otherwise it's, tamper-proof chips and unbreakable codes. Every third grader with a modem will be able to send codes we can't break, etc.
Bigelman safe. Yes, that's.
Yes, Bigelman safe. That was that's a safe with the instructions to crack it locked inside it.
Right. And so this fairly long chapter with all of that, just explaining it, and then there was a long silence. Susan breathed deeply as if to absorb the terrifying truth. Ensei Tankado has created an unbreakable algorithm. He's holding us hostage. I was like, yes, that's what the last half hour was about.
Yes.
We've literally been sitting here drilling down on every aspect of it.
Maybe she was mentally solving, unknown prime numbers or something with her genius IQ and missed that little subtle hint.
Right. But I guess it's sort of the, the double elimination tournament. Folks, in case you missed it, in case all of this started to look like a haze of gibberish in front of you, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is. It's
holding
exactly
us
that.
Hostage.
But yeah, so he's Digital Fortress is encrypted with itself. He's posted it on his website already, but he wants to auction off the key to the highest bidder, which causes Susan to pull in a long breath and also makes her stomach tighten. You wonder if that perfectly flat abdomen was already not tight, but it's hard to.
She's letting herself go already. She's probably you can't drink too many quarts of orange juice would be my caution to her.
This thing made me laugh as a reaction out of context. He has given the key to a guardian angel, essentially if the government kills me, I want you to do this type of thing. Strathmore says the guardian will post it on the internet, puts it in the newspaper, on billboards. In effect, he gives it away. Susan's eyes widened. Free downloads? Which is a funny, it's always just out of context, but that was in the day of, Bonzi Buddy being a free download or, what was it called? Winamp type of thing, being like, it's free. You have, when free software was not the de facto standard.
But then we get a greater reaction from her towards the end of this chapter, and it becomes an exclamation point overload. She suddenly stood. Her voice was determined. We must contact Tankado. There must be a way to convince him not to release. We can offer him triple the highest bid. We can clear his name. Anything.
Really?
All of them. Exclamation points.
Oh man, it's like that Antigua book that we wanted to read, which that was the thing everyone made fun of that self-published book about. But here it is in the bestseller.
After her first phrase, of course, Strathmore is going, "What are you doing? Sit down. Relax. You are a professional. Please, what are you doing?"
But yeah, she sort of says like, do we have any skilled assassins? And it ends with one of these. I didn't have the exact same thing, but he's like, that won't be necessary. Ensei Tankado was found dead in Spain this morning.
Yeah, he took a deep breath. Too late.
He took a deep breath. He wrung out his sweat towel into his garbage can, and the plip-plop it made was as revolting as his bulbous nose.
His hair shot out in every direction.
Yeah.
Somehow his hair was both sweaty and flying away wildly.
And yes, we mean out of his ears, too. Oh.
All right. Well, that's all I got for Chapter 7.
Yeah, and then we have another very brief one of Chapter 8, which Goes back to David Becker, our chiseled Greek god of a squash player who we'd forgotten about it for a while here, but it's revealed where he was headed, and that was to Sevilla, Spain.
Mm-hmm.
But what is he doing on the plane as he lands? He's tossing back the last of his cranberry juice and put the glass on the wet bar and scooped up his suit coat.
But here's a detail that struck me as funny. So Becker stood and stretched. After unlatching the overhead compartment, he remembered he had no luggage.
I didn't notice that.
That's not something that we do. But there had been no time to pack. It didn't matter. He'd been promised the trip would be brief, in and out. And I just thought, this is the guy who washes his head in a drinking fountain. I think he'll be fine, stopping at a CVS and,
right, yeah,
and grabbing a few things for a few hours.
Deodorant and wet nap shower.
Yeah. He's so fastidious, but so funny that you forget that you didn't have luggage. Like you open the compartment.
This was an interesting peek into his worldview as well. So he's been flown on a private jet to Europe, and when he lands, I guess the only person that he has contact with is the pilot, who presents him with an envelope and says, this is your payment. Becker thumbed through the thickest stack of reddish bills. What the? Local currency, the pilot offered flatly. I know what it is, Becker stammered, but it's too much. All I need is taxi fare. Becker did the conversion in his head. What's in here is worth thousands of dollars. And I just wondered, in what scenario would you say that to the guy who drove you somewhere? The guy, this is probably like some, former naval pilot who's stone-faced. Is like, do not care, sir, working in the interest of national security. Please do not discuss your payment rate with me.
But also a lame trait that they're trying to make of this guy is that he has an aversion to money. Like he doesn't care.
He's a Trappist monk or something.
Just take the money. You could probably be figured out later if you got overpaid or whatever.
Right, yeah. And it's thousands of dollars. Well, sure, that private jet you just flew on probably cost tens of thousands of dollars. So maybe adjust your expectations for how much this mission is costing whoever's putting it in charge.
Do you think he's going to get back in time to Stone Manor trip with Susan?
Oh man, I worry about their relationship. I feel like the cords are beginning to fray.
I do too.
I think they said that the cords are beginning to fray.
Chapter 9.
Yep, that's it. This is the last chapter of the section, and this one introduces a new character, system security guy Chartrukian.
Yeah. Chartrukian. Is that Armenian name? Chartrukian?
Could be. It sounds like Armin Tanzarian from The Simpsons.
Ah, there we go.
I don't know. That was Principal Skinner's real name, and anyway, that's what it reminded me of.
I see. So yeah, he walks into the room. I don't have a ton of notes for this.
I don't either. But yeah, he notices that. I guess I'm not sure if Susan and Strathmore are still in the office, but he walks in, notices that the workstation of Translator is unmanned, and he says that there's one thing he knew for certain: if Strathmore found out the SysSec lab was unmanned, it would cost the absent rookie his job. So I just wondered if they were going to post pictures of him in just panties somewhere to spread these awful rumors and get him shunned by the global community or whatever they did to Tankado.
We do get from Chartrukian a few Kleinian things. Chartrukian felt himself break a sweat.
Ooh, wow.
He didn't break a sweat. He felt himself.
Wow.
He's stepping away from his own reality there. And then this was an analogy that struck me as not really necessary, but here it is stuck in there. Snooping data was a lot like having indiscriminate sex. Protection or no protection, sooner or later you caught something.
Is that how it works?
Is that the...
I mean, really? Sure. All right. But this was another thing that I thought was going to be seeing a lot of in this book. It's sort of along the same lines as that of feeling yourself break a sweat. As if in slow motion, he set down the phone and stared in open mouth wonder. So you've got that of the person on the other line doing the hello, and he's, oh my God, as Matrix text is scrolling past on his screen.
Right. So he starts, the only thing in this chapter is what? He So he runs a virus check on it or something?
A virus probe, Chartrukian said firmly, trying to calm himself down. I should run a virus probe. So that's something that this NSA expert is saying out loud to himself.
And I'll establish Chartrukian's voice here as he says this, as he launches the thing, and it says it would take 15 minutes, and he says, "Come back clean. Squeaky clean. Tell Daddy it's nothing." The end of the chapter is, "It was not nothing, of course.
Yes.
Something very unusual was going on.
Tell Daddy that he hasn't caught a virus from indiscriminate sex. Protection or no protection. Daddy's going no protection, but he knows sooner or later he's going to catch something."
I'd hope somebody was over his shoulder as he was doing that. Paul?
Hey, Chartruk, what's
Chart
who's
man.
Daddy?
Who are you talking to there, buddy?
What's the name of that Andy Daly character?
Oh, what is that? I can't.
Come on, virus probe, a little something for Daddy.
Something for Daddy.
But yeah, he says he sensed it was not nothing. Instinct told him something very unusual was going on inside the great decoding beast. Who later on we learn some guy wants to pin our heroine up against it, and that Daddy doesn't want nothing. That Daddy wants something.
I wish they hadn't welded that part shut. I'd like to pin her up against that too.
Oh my God. Oh boy. On that note, wow.
Yeah.
That's the end of our section this time. That was 62 pages in our trade paperbacks, which are a very strange trim size. They're like it's hard to open without like cracking the spine every time you do it.
Too thick for the it needs to be a little wider, and margins could be a little fat or a little skinnier.
I think that the normal paperback was $2 extra, so I bought the slightly cheaper one. Possibly a mistake.
I read off of the ebook anyway, so it doesn't matter to me.
All right. Well, we'll have to find the assignment for next time, but that was like 13,000 words, and I thought that was a fairly decent, easy to read section.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go more.
Okay. Well, we'll post it in the show notes. Let's do the dumb sentence of the week.
A sentence begins with a capital letter. A capital letter is a letter that's big. A capital letter is not a small letter. A capital letter is big, big, big. A sentence ends with a period or an exclamation.
Feels like it's been a while since we've heard that, gentlemen.
Yeah, you know what someone pointed out is that that was the length of time during all those memes early on in the coronavirus thing. That was the amount of time that it would take to properly wash your hands. The first verse or something of the sentence song. So
that'd be great if that was the official government recommendation.
So this is the dumb sentences of our week sent in by listeners. Obviously, we got a ton of these because there was a lot of dumb sentences. We've touched on some of them, but we will go through and then give you some of our own. The first one was Patrick submitted, trailing her was the faint scent of Johnson's baby powder. We talked about that, but Patrick added on this his own little tweak here. He said, presumably the guard, intimately familiar with it and redolent of his own talc screw.
Thank you.
Augusta submitted, Susan found herself, this is I think in reference to their date and their banter, Susan found herself laughing more than she'd ever thought possible. So constant, unstoppable, hysterical laughter David is causing.
Joker origin story.
Yes. Tom H., Con, and Janelle all submitted Susan Fletcher's legs. That was a popular one, obviously. This is Carrie submitted. This is another from the exact same thing as two of the first three. But finally, the security guard shook his head as she disappeared in the distance. And it said, Carrie wrote it. I think Carrie's a he. She did not disappear in the distance. She went around a corner or a door. The hallway's not long enough for her to become too small for his eyes to resolve, which is another funny way to think about that. Curtis, Lacey, and Brian all submitted this, which requires some context. It appeared a translator had been working on one code for over 15 hours, and one of them submitted the context. This sentence doesn't seem too dumb on its own, but it's dumb because it's not just the second, but the third time it's been established that translator had been working on one code for over 15 hours within the span of less than 100 words.
Wow. Yeah, I think I saw that was repeated, but that's amazing.
Yes. It said, I think the guy said it's been 15 hours. It then showed like a screenshot of the time code that said 15 hours, and then it appeared it had been working for 15 hours.
Man.
This was my favorite of all the ones. I had glossed over it, but it made me laugh out loud and had to go show Lauren. George submitted, "I'll say," she thought.
That is good.
You have to tip your hat to that one. Like that's like in a, I wouldn't have been able to come up with it, but it's beyond parody.
That is very good.
We have Lucas. The EFF is all over me about civilian privacy rights again. And he just thinks it's hilarious that the EFS is going to be set up as the villain, but then it then goes on to the standard Dan Brown thing. Susan chuckled. The EFF, or Electronics Frontier Foundation, was a worldwide coalition. And that's the, I think that is the true hallmark of the man, is doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I also note that chuckling is not necessarily... I don't know. It's just a weird word.
Right. I guess if they're breathing down your neck again, like that's a rueful chuckle, I guess. It's not supposed to. I guess
so.
Andrew and Elizabeth both submitted this one. He gave an imperceptible sign and the gate swung open. So
wow.
If it was their commentary, if it was truly imperceptible, the other person would not know it was given and the fence would not be able to open. But hopefully there's other things about that security guard that are imperceptible. He's crossing his legs or holding his backpack in front of him to keep that imperceptible. This one is from Michael. The sound of the generators 8 stories below sounded oddly ominous today. And he edited that one. The sound sounded ominous. This is from Ruth. Computer viruses were as varied as bacterial viruses. And Ruth said, as hopefully everyone knows, in this age of COVID-19, bacteria and viruses are completely different. Viruses aren't even cells. The rest of the book is stupid, but this is 7th grade science. I've not paid enough attention to know if that's true or not, but I'll take her word on it. Heather, she says she loathes the one-word sentences in the book, especially when the word is its own paragraph. I think authors use them to manufacture drama, but it's just dumb. So my dumb sentence of the week is anarchy. I think that's in response to what Digital Fortress would unleash.
Sure, right.
And this is the last one. Joel submitted, although Ensai Tankado was not alive during the Second World War. Okay, let me start again. Although Ensai Tankado was not alive during the Second World War, he carefully studied everything about it. And so Joel said, apparently Dan Brown thinks it's unusual that someone would take an interest in events from before one's birth. Wait until he hears about Civil War reenactors. Pretty spry for a bunch of 155-year-olds.
Right.
But thankfully he studied, because that's when he realized that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor.
Right. Well, the country was locked down. Propaganda. You never know.
That's it for let's do our own.
Well, my own was burnt. It's the 10 minutes later, Becker was in the NSA commissary enjoying a popover and cranberry juice. I mean, that wins, right? Come on.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think one of mine, I have two. Two of mine weren't burnt. Yep. I have 2. I think one of them comes from that same meeting. There they were. This is all one sentence. There they were, 2 highly analytical minds, presumably immune to irrational infatuations, but somehow, while they sat there discussing linguistic morphology and pseudo-random number generators, they felt like a couple of teenagers. Everything was fireworks.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's one. And the second one is similar. With Merludes, I think this is Merludes is the restaurant they're at. With Merludes napkins and concert programs as her chalkboard, Susan set out to give her charming new pedagogue a mini course in cryptography.
Oh, boy.
Aye.
Oh, there's some good stuff in here.
Yes, absolutely. And we got a couple good emails, so let's do those quickly.
Bring it on.
All right. Well, we can start it off with a welcome to our newest and presumably youngest listener. Listener Chris, his baby daughter Magdalena was delivered on March 25th.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
She says a lot of black hair, and we're waiting to see if it will curl like her mom. We're listening to Digital Fortress as an audiobook, so your youngest listener is reading along with the book as well. The podcast continues to be a light in the darkness, guys. Stay safe in the plague lands. So, yeah, congratulations to Chris. And I hope Magdalena enjoyed the Alf skit.
Magdalena, dark hair, you say?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there's a photo challenge for you, Chris. I guess he can't go out in public. Damn it!
Right.
As soon as this ends, we want a water fountain bath picture. Next email. This is from Lucas, who said since we're covering a well-known author, I'd do a bit of research on the creation of the book, and he went down a Dan Brown rabbit hole and has these facts, which he provided sources for, because a lot of them are really stupid but evidently true. Before he was an author, he was a songwriter and musician. He released 2 albums, Dan Brown, self-titled, and Angels and Demons, which he would go on to have a book. He also self-published an album called Musica Animalia, featuring synthesized children's songs about animals. According to Brown, one of his songs was played during the opening festival of the 96 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, but Lucas could not corroborate this.
Wow, I had no idea. Did you?
Yeah, no, I have no idea, but I'm going to have to track down Musica Animalia, or better yet, if someone finds a lowlight from that, please send it to us.
Yes.
Before Digital Fortress, Brown co-authored a satirical book with his wife called 187 Men to Avoid, a survival guide for the romantically frustrated woman, under the pseudonym Danielle Brown. I would say that Hale, the sexually frustrated Carpaccio fan, might be one of those 187 men to avoid. According to Brown, he went to a cryptographic news group and contacted several people claiming to be ex-NSA offers as he was writing this. He also claims he often received angry emails over how unrealistic Digital Fortress was, so he had to prove to people that what he was writing about was true. He likes to solve writer's block by hanging upside down using gravity boots.
What? Why is that a fact that's out there?
His words, hanging upside down seems to help me solve plot challenges by shifting my entire perspective.
Oh, boy.
So there's our author.
Wow.
We have two emails. One is 2 more emails, sorry. One is from Josh, who's a Patreon supporter. Hey guys, Digital Fortress is a bit of a treat for me. When I worked in the Air Force and the DoD, I specialized in signals intelligence analysis. The NSA handles SIGINT, and anyone working in the field is subordinate, even if you don't work at Fort Meade. I worked in that field for 15 years, and I've been to the NSA. Dan Brown gets some of the basic, and this might have been the same guy who posted the gay chicken challenge.
Really?
From our previous one.
Yeah.
But maybe, don't quote me on that. Dan Brown gets some of the basic unclassified science right, which nowadays is a simple Wikipedia away. Though what cracks me up most of his depiction is if the NSA itself leading the reader to believe it's a shining palace full of James Bond-type crypto sleuths. The truth is far less glamorous. Some of the coolest missions at NSA have offices in the basement of the building where the hallways come equipped with exposed pipes and wires. Code breakers are much more likely to be found roaming the halls wearing Star Trek communicator pins while staring intensely at their own shoes that they are to be flitting about and wooing visitors at the food court. Speaking of which, the food court is literally what you would find at a mall, which isn't bad, all things considered. Women are not an uncommon sight, whether they're conventionally attractive or not. But hey, maybe he's confused the NSA for Albania. So yeah, it doesn't sound like Vichyssoise and prime rib are going to be on the menu.
There are no food court stores that serve Vichyssoise that I have ever been aware of.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be a side at hot dog on a stick.
That's true.
And for our final email is from Megan. She's gotten a little guessing game that we can end on.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely got stuck on the hard number Brown gives out for Susan Fletcher's IQ, 170. When provided with quantifiable details like this, I find it impossible to let go without finding real-world examples of where our hot nerd genius would line up with other actual intelligent people throughout history. So I Googled a few IQs of a few people and wrote down the first answer. So it isn't deeply researched, but thought it might be interesting if you wanted to guess and see where she ranks in relation to all these people. So I'll just give you the people. You just say higher or lower. Okay. Galileo.
Higher.
So you think Susan is higher than, or you think Galileo?
No, Galileo higher.
Okay. Immanuel Kant.
I'm going to say lower.
René Descartes.
Higher, because I think he was polymath too. So.
Okay. Charles Darwin.
I'm going to say lower.
Ludwig van Beethoven.
I don't know if anyone's quantified it. I would say higher, but...
Okay. Ashton Kutcher.
I would say lower, but
Okay.
I think he's intelligent.
Stephen Hawking.
The same.
Okay. Albert Einstein.
Higher, I think.
Okay. Ben Stein of Ben Stein's Money.
The same.
I think he's like a Mensa type, right?
Yeah.
You say lower.
Same.
Oh, same. Equal. Got
Yes.
it. Bobby Fischer.
Lower.
And Thomas Edison.
Lower.
Okay. Well, I read those in descending order. So the way the list would actually work would be Galileo 185, Immanuel Kant 185, Descartes 180, Susan Fletcher 170, Charles Darwin 165, Beethoven 165, Kutcher and Hawking both at 160. Oh, and Einstein. And then Ben Stein and Bobby Fischer at 150 and Thomas Edison at 145.
Okay.
So you got Kant, Darwin, Kutcher, Hawking, Fisher, and Edison correct, I think, on there. But she's up there with some titans.
I had read once that I think Goethe is thought to have. I mean, and all of this is utter speculation.
Sure, yeah, right, yeah.
But like 195 is possible or something.
Well, I mean, I think the IQ test I took in second grade was like, put these 3 comic strip panels in order type of thing. Or like, what does this shape look like from the front and then above? So like, how do you apply that to, Galileo at 185?
Wow, I'm getting pinged on my phone. You got to keep it on these days,
Yeah, a good sign to wrap up, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been really fun. It's going to be a fun book, I think.
And thanks Patreon people for sticking with us through all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, everyone should stay safe and hope everyone is. So
yeah, be well. There's 372 pages. We'll be back soon.
Peace.